Hey there, Ryan Black, real estate investor here, and in today's 2-minute investing tip, I want to talk to you about the third way that rental real estate pays us, and that is with cash flow, right? Cash flow. Most of us, I think a lot of people, when they're looking at rental properties, that's kind of their primary focus. When they're doing their analysis, they're thinking, okay, how much is this going to cash flow for me a month? And it is important, right? But not necessarily the most important, depending on your situation and what your goals are and what it is you're trying to accomplish as an investor. But it is an important consideration. What is my monthly cash flow, right? That is simply right after the rent is paid in and debt service and all other expenses as far as maintenance and repairs and management and taxes and insurance and all those other good things. Any utilities that are included, all of those other expenses. How much is left over when you're done? Now, there are situations where it could work out that you purchasing a rental property that has no cash flow or a negative cash flow might make sense for you. But in general, we typically want positive cash flow in most situations, right? Those are special cases where you've got kind of a bigger strategy, a bigger plan that you're working on. But in most cases, positive cash flow is what we want. It's a good thing. And so that's important to consider, and that's what we get every month thrown into our bank account. One thing to remember when you're doing your analysis, right? The analysis is so important in any real estate transaction, particularly in long-term holds, because if you don't do those numbers right, you can get burned pretty fast if you don't know how to do them correctly. And when you're doing that analysis, that cash flow analysis, and seeing, okay, these are all the numbers, this will be the projected performance of the property over time. Make sure that you include not just those short-term repairs and things that pop up, but also those deferred maintenance items and those long-term things. Because, if you're planning on holding a property for 15 years and you've only got 5 years left in your roof, you better be budgeting that in your numbers for every single month. Even though you're not going to replace it for 5 years, you could have 5 years of great positive cash flow every single month. And then once you hit 5 years and 1 month and you have to replace that roof, you just canceled out all of that cash flow that you got over the last 5 years with that one expense. And maybe you're even negative, right? Because you didn't calculate it correctly. So it's so important when going through the due diligence and when looking at all of the the different considerations of a property to say, okay, do I want to hold on to this as a long-term hold? What are those deferred expenses, the deferred maintenance, those future expenses that you're going to have? Work those into your numbers, because if you're just like, oh, I'll just take care of it in the future, it doesn't really matter, it cash flows today. If you're only going to hold on to it for a year or two and you can get by without doing any of those things, great. But if you're planning on holding it for a long period of time, you have to include those expenses. Otherwise, you're just fooling yourself and you're giving yourself false numbers, and your performance in reality is not going to be what you really hope it to be. So that's number 3. Thanks for joining me. See you next time for number 4. Take care. Bye-bye.